I, a 29-year-old male, met my girlfriend, Ava, a 26-year-old female, at this fancy gym I joined after getting a bonus from work. I'm not going to lie, I signed up mainly because my buddy told me there were attractive girls there, and he wasn't wrong. Ava was always on the elliptical around 6 p.m., looking like she walked straight out of a fitness magazine. The first time I talked to her, I was totally awkward, but somehow she found it charming. We went for smoothies afterward, and man, I was hooked. She had this laugh that made everyone around her smile, and she seemed genuinely interested in my boring stories. I'm a petroleum engineer working on offshore rigs, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, which basically means I work hard in the middle of the ocean for half the month. The pay is good though, I'm not going to complain about that. Ava was working as a dental hygienist when we met, a steady job with decent pay, nothing fancy, but she seemed to enjoy it. The first couple of months were pretty normal. We'd go out for dinner, catch movies, or hang at her place or mine. Sometimes she'd pick up the check, sometimes I would, no big deal. But there were things I didn't pay much attention to that were enough to make me confused sometimes. For example, one time, we'd been dating for maybe 3 months, and Ava stared at a $400 bracelet in a jewelry store window, mentioning her birthday was soon. It was more than I'd normally spend that early, but I caved. When she opened it, she acted like I'd given her the moon, praising my generosity and trashing her cheapskate ex. That should have been my first clue. Then came the comments about her friend Zoe's boyfriend. Zoe this, Zoe that. Zoe's boyfriend surprised her with a weekend trip to the mountains just because. Zoe's boyfriend bought her those shoes she wanted without her even asking, always with this look like she was taking notes on what I should be doing. Being the dummy I was, I started picking up more tabs, getting her nicer gifts, and taking her to fancier places. Nothing crazy expensive at first, but definitely more than I'd spent on previous girlfriends. The way she'd smile when I handed her a gift bag made me feel like a hero or something. My sister Jen saw through it way before I did. Jen is 3 years older and much smarter about people. She visited for a weekend about 6 months into my relationship with Ava. So, what do you think of her? I asked after Ava left my apartment that Sunday. Jen gave me this look. She seems high maintenance. What? No way, she's great, I defended. Kev, she spent 20 minutes talking about that designer purse her friend got, 10 minutes complaining about her cheap coworker, and exactly 0 minutes asking about your last rig rotation. She's just into fashion, I said. Not everyone wants to hear about oil drilling mechanics. When was the last time she paid for dinner? I had to think about it. She got coffee last week. Jen rolled her eyes. Just keep your eyes open, brother. That girl's got designer taste but expects someone else to pick up the tab. I brushed it off. Jen was always suspicious of the girls I dated. 5 months into our relationship, Ava started talking about how unfulfilling her job was, how she was meant for more than cleaning people's teeth, and how she needed to find her true passion. I'm thinking of taking a break from the dental office, she announced over dinner one night, just for a couple of months while I figure out what I really want to do. Can you afford that? I asked, genuinely curious. Her apartment wasn't cheap, and she already lived pretty close to her means from what I could tell. She stirred her drink and gave me this little smile. I've been saving a little, and I know you'd help me out if things got tight, right? That's what couples do. Like an idiot, I nodded and said, yeah, of course. I mean, I did make good money, and I figured it would just be a month or two, tops. Man, was I wrong. She quit her job the following week, said she was going to start a lifestyle blog, bought a fancy camera and some blogging course. For $500, posted exactly 3 times, then decided the market was too saturated, and she needed to rethink her brand strategy. Meanwhile, the help me out if things get tight quickly became can you cover my half of dinner tonight, which became can you get the electric bill this month, which eventually became me paying for literally everything. Her just a couple of months turned into 6 with no end in sight. No job applications, no real plans, just a lot of Instagrams, scrolling and shopping trips with that Zoe. And the spending, oh my God, the spending. It was like once she realized I would cover the essentials, she redirected all her energy into finding new ways to spend money. I remember coming home from a brutal 2-week shift on the rig. I was exhausted, covered in grime despite showering, and just wanted to crash on my couch. Instead, Ava was waiting at my apartment with plans for us to go to this new restaurant where appetizers alone were like $30 each. Babe, I just want to order pizza and sleep, I told her. She pouted, actually pouted like a 5-year-old. But I've been waiting all week to try this place. I already told Zoe we were going. She and her boyfriend are meeting us there. That became our routine, me working hard on the rig, her planning expensive outings with my money. And if I ever suggested something cheaper or free, it was, don't be so boring, or don't be so stingy. I was literally becoming a walking wallet, and I was too blind to see it. Before Ava, I was pretty good with money. Working on the rigs paid well, but I wasn't flashy about it. I had a decent apartment, a reliable car, some savings, and treated myself occasionally, nothing crazy. My dad always said, live below your means, and you'll never stress about a bill. Smart guy, my dad. But with Ava in my life, my bank account started bleeding money like never before. It wasn't just the dinners and gifts anymore, it was everything. Her car needed new tires. Somehow, that became my problem. Her laptop was too slow. Guess who bought the new MacBook? Her apartment's rent went up. I covered the difference without her even asking. There were things that caught me off guard, too. One evening, as she was scrolling through her phone, she laughed at some notification. Who's that? I asked casually. Oh, just Dave, she said without looking up. He's this guy who always jokes he'd spoil me rotten if I ever became single again. She flashed a playful smile, but something about the way she said it felt off, almost like a warning. I tried brushing it aside, but it stuck in the back of my mind. About 8 months into our relationship, I noticed my savings had dropped by almost $15,000. $15,000! When I looked back at my statements, I couldn't even point to one big purchase that caused it. It was death by 1,000 cuts, hundreds here, thousands there. I tried bringing it up casually one night while we were watching Netflix at my place. Hey, I was looking at my budget today. We might need to dial back the spending a bit. Ava barely looked up from her phone. What spending? Dinners, shopping trips? It's adding up. She put her phone down and gave me this look like I just suggested we start dumpster diving. Are you saying I'm expensive? No, I backpedaled like an idiot, just that we could maybe cook at home more often or find free stuff to do sometimes. She rolled her eyes. That's so boring though. Life's short. We should enjoy it. Yeah, but, she cut me off. Besides, you make good money. And when my blog takes off, I'll treat you to all kinds of stuff. The mythical blog that had exactly 3 posts, right? But the real wake-up call came with the credit card incident. I had just gotten back from a particularly rough rotation. One of the drilling systems had malfunctioned, which meant 18-hour days trying to fix it while the company lost millions by the hour. I was dead tired and stressed out of my mind. The first thing I did after dropping my bags was check my mail. Among the pile was my American Express statement. I opened it, expecting the usual damage of a few thousand, which was already insane looking back. Instead, I saw a charge for $2,500 from some designer store I'd never heard of. My heart started pounding. I'd heard about credit card fraud from guys on the rig but never experienced it. I called Ava immediately. Hey, someone used my Amex for a $2,500 shopping spree. I'm about to call the company and report fraud. There was a pause, then, oh, that was me. I nearly dropped my phone. What? I was going to tell you, she said, sounding completely unconcerned. They were having this amazing sale on handbags, and I didn't want to miss it. The one I got would normally be like $3,800, so I actually saved you money. Saved me? I couldn't even finish the sentence. Ava, you took my credit card without asking. That's stealing. Don't be so dramatic, she laughed. It's just money. You'll make more next month. That's when I snapped, not yelling or anything, but my voice got real quiet and serious. Listen to me carefully. If you ever take my card again without asking, we're done. I'm not kidding. She must have heard something in my tone because her voice instantly switched to this baby-like sweetness. I'm sorry, babe. It was impulsive. I should have asked. Forgive me. I said we'd talk about it when I saw her that weekend. We did, and she cried, apologized, and promised it would never happen again. Like an idiot, I believed her. The next weekend we were at the mall, her favorite place on earth apparently, and she spotted this watch in a window. Isn't that gorgeous? She said, pressing her face against the glass like a kid at a candy store. The price tag was visible even from where I stood, $1,200. Yeah, it's nice, I said neutrally. My birthday's coming up, she hinted. Ava, we just talked about this. I can't keep spending like this. Her face changed instantly. The sweet, excited expression disappeared, replaced by something cold and calculating. Why not? It's not like you're struggling. You make 6 figures. That doesn't mean I should blow it all on watches and handbags. God, you're so stingy sometimes, she huffed. Zoe's boyfriend just got her a... I don't care what Zoe's boyfriend did, I interrupted, surprising both of us. I'm not him. She stormed off, making a big scene in the middle of the mall. Later that night, she texted me a half-assed apology, and things went back to normal, which meant her being sweet until the next thing she wanted to buy. This pattern continued for weeks, me trying to set boundaries, her finding ways around them or making me feel bad for having them at all. Then my sister Jen came to visit again. We were having lunch while Ava was at a networking event, which I later found out was just brunch with Zoe. You look stressed, Jen said, studying my face. Everything okay with you and the princess? I tried playing it off, but Jen's always been able to see right through me. Eventually, I told her everything. The credit card incident, the constant spending, the guilt trips. Jen put her fork down and stared at me. Kevin, you realize you're being used, right? It's not that simple, I said defensively. It actually is that simple. When was the last time she did anything for you? Not with your money, but actually for you. I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it. I couldn't think of a single example. She doesn't even cook for you when you come back from 2 weeks on a rig, Jen continued. She doesn't ask about your day. She doesn't care about your stress. All she cares about is what you can buy her. She loves me, I insisted weakly. Jen reached across the table and grabbed my hand. No, Kev, she loves your wallet. There's a difference. Those words hit me hard, harder than I wanted to admit because deep down I knew she was right. But the final straw came a few days later. Ava sat me down with that sickeningly sweet smile I'd come to recognize as her "I want something expensive" face. Babe, she said, twirling her hair around her finger, my birthday's coming up next month. Here we go again. That freaking birthday. The way she insisted on it, even though I showed her I wasn't comfortable with that type of suggestion, pissed me off. I've been thinking, she continued. I really want that limited edition designer bag, and maybe a day of shopping to go with it. When she said day of shopping, she meant me dropping at least $3,000 while being bored out of my mind carrying her bags from store to store. Ava, I said firmly, I just told you we need to cut back on spending. I'll get you something nice for your birthday, but I'm not dropping thousands on bags and clothes. You need to learn some responsibility. That's when it happened. That's when the mask completely fell off. She laughed, not a normal laugh, but this condescending, mocking laugh that sent a chill down my spine. Oh my God, Kev, she said, crossing her arms. You sound broke. I felt my jaw tighten. Excuse me? She just smirked, like she was so superior. I don't date broke guys. If you can't spoil me, someone else will. Those words hit me like a truck. It was like someone had finally turned on the lights after I'd been stumbling around in the dark for months. In that moment, I saw Ava for what she really was. Not my girlfriend, but a parasite who had latched onto my income. I didn't argue. I just nodded slowly and said, You might be right about that. She looked confused for a split second. I caught a flash of panic, but then she just rolled her eyes. Whatever. I'm going out with Zoe tonight. We can talk when you stop being so cheap. As she walked away to get ready, I sat there feeling strangely calm, like when you finally admit to yourself that you've been an idiot, and somehow that admission brings clarity. My phone buzzed. It was my old college friend, Mari, asking if I wanted to grab coffee while I was back in town. Mari and I had been pretty close in school but had kind of drifted apart after graduation. She'd moved away for a job but had apparently moved back a few months ago. I figured, why not? I could use a friend right now. We met at this small coffee shop downtown, far from the fancy places Ava insisted on. Mari looked great. Her curly hair was shorter than I remembered, and she had this easy smile that made you automatically smile back. She was wearing just jeans and a simple t-shirt but somehow looked more put together than Ava did with her designer outfits. Kevin, it's been forever. She gave me a quick hug before we sat down. How's life on the rigs? And just like that, we were talking like we'd never lost touch. The weird thing? She actually asked about my job, not just a quick housework, but genuine questions about what I did, the challenges, and what it was like being offshore for weeks at a time. When was the last time Ava had asked me anything like that? Eventually, the conversation turned to relationships. So, seeing anyone? Mari asked, stirring her coffee. I hesitated, then found myself unloading everything, the spending, the entitlement, the credit card theft, and finally the broke guy's comment from earlier that day. Mari didn't sugarcoat her response. Kevin, she's using you, like textbook gold digger using you. She's just going through a phase, I defended weakly. Mari raised an eyebrow. Adults with bills don't get phases where someone else funds their life. That's called being a mooch. Now my sister and Mari could see it. I was about to get lost in my thoughts to connect stuff, but I just changed the subject. We talked for hours. College memories, careers. She was now a traveling wildlife photographer, movies, music, everything but Ava. When Mari suggested meeting again, I genuinely agreed. Heading back to my car, I realized we'd spent all that time together without her expecting anything from me. I'd almost forgotten what normal felt like. When I got back to my apartment, Ava was already home from her night out, sprawled on my couch, scrolling through her phone. How was your night? I asked, trying to sound casual. She didn't even look up. Fine. Zoe's boyfriend got her those earrings she wanted, the ones I showed you last week. Of course, because every conversation had to circle back to what other guys were buying their girlfriends. That's nice, I said, grabbing a water from the fridge. I ran into my old friend Mari today. We got coffee. Who's Mari? Now she looked up, suddenly interested. Friend from college. She just moved back to town. She's a wildlife photographer now, travels all over. Ava's eyes narrowed slightly. Is she pretty? I shrugged. I guess, yeah, she's cool. She didn't say anything, just went back to her phone. But I could tell she wasn't happy. Not because she cared about me hanging out with another woman, but because someone else had my attention. The next day, Ava was suspiciously nice, made coffee a first, smiling sweetly, and suggesting a weekend trip just for us. Clearly damage control after her broke guy's comment, but without an apology. Just another attempt at spending my money. Can't, I said, saving for some investments. Her smile faded. What investments? Just planning for the future. I left her standing there, confused. She kept it up for days, but I wasn't buying it. Every forced smile reminded me of exactly what she'd said. I met up with Mari again before I had to head back to the rig. We went for a hike this time, something Ava would never do because she might get sweaty or dirty. So, have you dumped the gold digger yet? Mari asked as we reached the top of the trail. I laughed despite myself. Not exactly. Why not? She took a swig from her water bottle, looking genuinely confused. It's complicated, I said, staring out at the view. It's actually not. Mari sat down on a rock. She's using you for money. She admitted it to your face. What's complicated about that? When I didn't answer, she softened her tone. Look, I know it's hard to walk away. You've invested time and obviously a lot of money in this relationship, but Kevin, you deserve someone who cares about you, not your wallet. Like who? I asked, only half joking. She threw her empty water bottle at me, like someone who actually likes you for being you, dummy. Someone who asks about your day and actually listens to the answer. Someone who doesn't make you feel bad for not buying them expensive stuff. On the way back down, Mari told me about her last relationship. A guy who kept trying to get her to quit her photography career because he didn't like her traveling so much. I loved that job more than I loved him, she said simply, so I chose the job. That's brave, I replied. She shrugged. Not really, just self-respect. Self-respect. When was the last time I'd shown any of that with Ava? I headed back to the rig the next day for my 2-week shift, my mind churning the whole time. Being away from Ava gave me space to think clearly. Every conversation with her during those 2 weeks was the same. Her talking about things she wanted to buy, places she wanted to go, all with the underlying expectation that I would fund everything. Meanwhile, I texted with Mari occasionally, just casual stuff. She sent me pictures of a fox family she was photographing for a conservation magazine. I sent her pics of the sunset from the rig. Normal friend stuff, but each conversation left me feeling better somehow. By the time my shift ended and I was heading back to shore, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to be Ava's personal bank anymore. I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do about it yet, but I knew something had to change. What I didn't expect was what happened when I got back to my apartment. Ava was there, wearing a new dress I'd definitely never seen before, with a full makeup look that must have taken her hours. "Welcome home, babe," she chirped, throwing her arms around me. "I missed you so much." Before I could even respond, she was pulling me toward the bedroom. "I got something special for tonight," she said with a wink. That's when I spotted the shopping bags in the corner, multiple bags from high-end stores. Next to them on the counter was my backup credit card, the one I kept in my desk drawer for emergencies. "Ava," I said slowly, pulling away from her. "What are those bags?" "Oh," she smiled brightly. "Just a few things I picked up. Don't worry, everything was on sale." "With what money?" I already knew the answer, but I wanted to hear her say it. Her smile faltered slightly. "Well, you know, I'm still building my blog, so I just borrowed your card. I was going to tell you." And there it was. After explicitly warning her never to touch my cards again, after telling her we needed to cut back on spending, after everything, she'd done it again. In that moment, something inside me just hardened, like concrete setting. I wasn't angry, not exactly. I was just done. "Pack your things," I said quietly. "You're leaving." Her fake sweet expression vanished instantly. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Pack your stuff and get out. Kevin, don't be ridiculous." She tried to touch my arm, but I stepped back. "It was just a little shopping. You're overreacting." "No," I said firmly. "I'm finally reacting appropriately. We're done." For a second, genuine panic flashed across her face. "You can't be serious. Where am I supposed to go?" "Not my problem anymore." And that's when she played her final card, her eyes filling with tears. "Please, Kevin, I love you. I made a mistake. I'll return everything." "Find someone else then," I said. "We're done." I thought that would be the end of it. Kick her out, move on with my life. Lesson learned. But Ava wasn't going down without a fight. "You're being ridiculous," she said, switching from fake tears to anger in a heartbeat. "You can't just throw me out. Half this stuff is mine. The stuff you bought with my money, you mean. We're in a relationship. What's yours is mine." I laughed, actually laughed out loud. "We're not married, Ava. And as of right now, we're not even dating." That set her off. She started yelling about how much time she'd invested in me, how she could have been with so many richer guys, and how I was making the biggest mistake of my life. I just stood there, letting her scream herself out. Finally, when she stopped to catch her breath, I said, "Are you done? Because you still need to pack." She stared at me like she couldn't believe I wasn't caving, then pulled out her phone. "Fine, I'll call Zoe. I'll stay with her until you calm down and realize how stupid you're being." "Whatever works for you," I said, heading to the kitchen to grab a drink. I was surprisingly calm for a guy ending a year-long relationship. Here's where things got interesting. While Ava was in the bedroom, throwing clothes into a suitcase and having a very loud phone conversation with Zoe, I noticed something. Her purse was on the counter, the new one she'd just bought with my stolen credit card. Next to it was her wallet, carelessly left open. Inside, I could see several credit cards. My credit cards. Not just the emergency ones she'd taken from my desk, but others I thought I'd lost or that had been compromised. That explained the mystery charges over the past few months. Looking at those cards, something shifted in me. This wasn't just a girlfriend with expensive taste. This was someone who had been systematically stealing from me. And suddenly, I didn't just want to break up with her. I wanted payback. While she was distracted on the phone, I took back all my cards. Then a thought hit me. What if I could give Ava a taste of her own medicine, make her experience what it's like to have nothing? But I'd need to be smart about it. Kicking her out was step one, but it wouldn't really hurt her. She'd just bounce to Zoe's place, find another sucker, and continue her princess lifestyle without missing a beat. No, I needed her to truly understand the consequences of her actions. I kept quiet about the cards I'd found. When she finally came out of the bedroom with her suitcase, she was all cold dignity. "I'm staying at Zoe's. When you're ready to apologize, you know my number." I just nodded, holding the door open for her. "Take care, Ava." The confused look on her face as she left was priceless. She'd expected me to beg her to stay, to promise I'd make it up to her. The fact that I was just letting her go threw her completely off balance. As soon as Ava left, I got to work. I reported all the cards stolen, which technically they were. I checked my accounts and found out she'd racked up over $22,000. Seriously, that's down payment money. All blown on bags, shoes, spa days, and God knows what else. The more I dug, the clearer it got. She'd left a paper trail. Ava was too lazy to handle her own finances, so I'd been added to her accounts, and she had no idea. Perfect. I removed myself from her accounts, canceled any payments tied to me, and reported all the fraudulent charges. But I wasn't done. Months ago, she had me go over her lease paperwork because legal stuff makes my brain hurt. She signed it without reading, not realizing I removed my name from it. The place was now fully her responsibility, and she hadn't paid rent in months. The landlord was ready to kick her out. I remembered all the designer stuff I bought her. Bags, shoes, jewelry. Since I had the receipts, they were technically mine. I texted her, saying I'd be gone for a month on a rig shift, knowing she'd avoid my place. I called my sister Jen for advice, and she agreed to help me do things right. We sorted through everything Ava left at my place, took pictures, and listed them online. By the end of the day, I had over $15,000 worth of stuff listed. The next day, while she was at Zoe's, I went to her apartment and took back all the things I bought her. Not stealing, just reclaiming what was mine. Her apartment was a disaster, with unpaid bills everywhere. I left with 3 boxes of designer goods. The sales rolled in fast, Chanel bag, Louboutins, everything. The money went straight to my new freedom fund. Meanwhile, Ava kept pretending her life was fine on social media. I didn't care. I'd worked hard for a year while she blew through my money. Maybe my revenge was petty, but it also felt damn good. During all this, I'd been telling Ava I was on an extended rig rotation, but in reality, I was at my apartment, waiting for the fallout. I remember waking up the morning she discovered what she'd put herself into, feeling this weird mix of anxiety and anticipation. Around 11 a.m., my phone started blowing up with texts from Ava. No response from me. Then calls started coming in. I sent them straight to voicemail. I didn't need to talk to her to know what was happening. She'd gone back to her apartment and found the eviction notice on the door, possibly the utilities already turned off. Around 2 p.m., there was a pounding on my door that made me jump. I knew immediately it was Ava. The rhythm of it, impatient, entitled, demanding, was unmistakable. I took a deep breath and looked through the peephole. Ava stood there, looking nothing like the polished princess she usually presented herself as. Her makeup was smeared, hair pulled back messily, wearing clothes I'd never seen before, probably borrowed from Zoe since most of her designer stuff was gone. Her face was red and blotchy from crying, but her expression was pure fury. For a split second I considered not answering, just letting her stand there until she gave up. But no, I wanted this confrontation. I wanted to see the moment she realized her actions had consequences. I wanted closure. I opened the door but stood firmly in the doorway, not inviting her in. The look on her face when she saw me was almost comical, shocked that I was actually home when I'd said I was on the rig, quickly replaced by desperate relief that she'd found me, followed immediately by rage. She pushed past me into the apartment, already in full meltdown mode. The accusations flew fast and furious. Someone had broken into her apartment, things were missing, the landlord was threatening eviction, her cards weren't working, nothing made sense, I had to help her. I just stood there, arms crossed, watching the performance, because that's what it was. A performance designed to manipulate me into fixing her problems again. The tears, the trembling lip, the helpless damsel routine. I'd seen it all before. When she finally paused to catch her breath, I explained the situation calmly. No one had broken into her apartment. I had simply reclaimed items I had purchased and had receipts for. The eviction notice was real because she hadn't paid rent in months. The cards weren't working because they were my cards that she had taken without permission, and I'd reported them stolen. The utilities were in her name now, and she hadn't paid those bills either. In other words, this was her life without my financial support. This was reality. The transformation that came over her face was something I'll never forget. She went from tearful damsel to raging harpy in seconds. She called me every name in the book, accused me of ruining her life, said I'd tricked her and used her. The irony of that last accusation wasn't lost on me. When the yelling didn't work, she switched tactics again. Suddenly she was sweet, apologetic, promising to change. She loved me. She'd made mistakes. She'd get a job tomorrow. She'd pay me back for everything. We could work this out. I almost admired the performance. But then came the biggest revelation of all. As she pleaded her case, she let slip that she'd already called a dude named Dave, her supposed backup plan, the guy she'd always subtly threatened me with whenever I didn't give her what she wanted. Apparently, Dave had turned her down flat, wouldn't even let her stay on his couch. That's when it hit me. Ava had no one. She'd spent so much time cultivating this image of being desired and sought after, of having options and alternatives, but when push came to shove, there was no one willing to pick up the pieces of her mess. Not Dave, not her other admirers she was always mentioning, not even Zoe, who had apparently kicked her out after 3 days of listening to her complain without contributing anything to the household. Ava was truly on her own for the first time in probably years, and she had absolutely no idea how to handle it. That's when I'd had enough. I didn't want her tears, her rage, her bargaining, or her offers. I just wanted her gone from my life. I told her in no uncertain terms that we were over, that she needed to leave my apartment and not come back, that she needed to figure out her own life without using someone else as a human wallet. She tried one last tactic: threats. She'd tell people I abused her. She'd ruin my reputation. She'd make me regret this. I just laughed. I had text messages, credit card statements, receipts, and witnesses who could testify to her character and behavior. She had nothing but empty threats. Seeing that nothing was working, she broke down completely. Not the fake tears from before, but genuine, ugly sobbing. I helped her to her feet and guided her to the door. There was nothing left to say. She needed to face the consequences of her actions, and I needed to move on with my life. As I closed the door behind her, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I went to bed that night, expecting to feel guilty or conflicted. Instead, I slept better than I had in months. No more walking on eggshells, no more dreading credit card statements, no more feeling inadequate for not spending enough to keep her happy. The next morning, I woke up to dozens more missed calls and texts from Ava. I deleted them all without reading them. Whatever crisis she was facing now was her problem, not mine. Instead, I texted Mari and asked if she wanted to grab breakfast. She responded almost immediately with a yes and a smiley face. As I got ready to meet her, I glanced at the empty space in my closet where Ava's things used to be. There was no sadness, no regret, just a sense of possibility, like I'd finally cleared out the weeds and made room for something better to grow. I grabbed my keys and headed out, leaving my phone on the counter. Whatever desperate messages Ava was sending could wait. I had breakfast with a real person to get to. So, yeah, it's been 4 months since the Ava disaster, and honestly, life's been pretty good. The first week after our confrontation was intense. She kept showing up at my place, crying or yelling until I threatened a restraining order. Eventually, she got the message and disappeared. Word around town is she moved back with her parents and works as a receptionist at her old dental office. Lower position, lower pay. Reality hit her hard. I spent a few weeks getting my finances back on track, paid off the credit card debt she'd racked up, and put the rest of my revenge money into savings. Expensive lesson learned. The biggest surprise has been my relationship with Mari. We started hanging out more after the breakup, just as friends at first. Coffee, hikes, movie nights, Nothing fancy, no pressure, just two people actually enjoying each other's company without price tags attached. Mari was focused on building her wildlife photography business, and I was healing from financial trauma. We'd talk for hours about real stuff, not her demanding things or me trying to impress her. My sister Jen approves of Mari, which is a huge plus. This one actually asks about your job without looking bored, she pointed out after dinner together. And notice how she insisted on splitting the check? That's a real woman. Mari once brought up what happened with Ava. She was just curious if I had any lingering feelings. I didn't. That chapter was closed. Life's too short for stupid games, I told her as we cleaned up together. And that, she said, leaning in closer, is exactly why any girl would be lucky to have you. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be, with someone who valued me for who I was, not what I could buy her. Sometimes, you have to lose a fake diamond to find a real gem.